My goodness.
However, that's we're living in a world where that's the to be expected, and that's our and here we go.
Is all that information on the ACIM Gather website? Because I haven't checked there lately to see.
Well, no, I have not. I have kind of forgot how to do things on there.
Oh, okay. Well, wait, maybe when we both have a lull, maybe over the summer sometime, we could get together and spend some time and get the
No,
site really spiffed up. How's that sound?
I would love to do that. I would be so grateful for that. That would be such a gift to us for sure because that's always is, I'm running so fast I can't keep up. In fact, there's a lot of stuff like usually after we're done here, I will go into YouTube and put a picture of the book and everything on the thing so that when people see it, they'll know what it is. I have not done that. It's just like, my gosh, with Saturdays here I am going on. I'm, I'm not complaining, believe me. I am like so overjoyed that I have such opportunities.
Yeah, yeah.
Saturday, I have in the morning, I do the lesson of the day with a group of people
Hmm.
at like 7:20. We go over the lesson and then I come on with you. And then after I'm on with you, we have another group that we're going through the text, and we're in chapter 2 in the special principles of miracle workers, and we're doing that on this Zoom, same Zoom channel, same Zoom time.
Uh-huh.
And then after that, uh, our friend Devin has put together a children's edition of A Course of Miracles
Hmm.
that has excuse me, the whole course and the lessons. It's very cute. And
So since Ken Wapnick says that we're all toddlers, so it's suitable for all ages, right?
it is suitable for all ages. And we find that out because we're studying it as a group. And as we're studying it as a group, we're getting insights into because it's the same thing, but it's very cute. It's like, he uses lots of words like super duper and superhero and um things little kids can understand. He has three little children, so um it's helpful to him. But anyway,
Cool, cool.
yeah, and that's also on our YouTube channel. If you ever go over and check that out, you can see
I
our.
I just did just now. I followed the link in the corner there. Yeah.
So yeah, so we got. You see how many recordings or how many videos are on there?
I'll look, take a look. The
It is a lot.
wow.
For us just having started this, I mean, really, seriously, I mean, it has it been a year that we've been doing the YouTubes? I don't even know, but whatever.
Well,
It
I
is.
see some stuff from 10 years ago. Maybe
There's some
that's,
stuff from an old site that I had
oh, okay.
before that
Oh, okay.
I moved over, but yeah, it's
Okay.
but yeah,
Very cool. Very cool.
there's we have a lot. And I have Audrey. I don't know if you know her, Audrey
Uh-huh.
Whitehead. Audrey. She's my helper
Oh, great.
with that stuff. So she's good with the video type stuff and everything. And it's, I mean, really, honestly, those are just teachers every day coming in and doing on the Zoom, coming in and doing a program. There's a lady that does her name is Zilma Gonzalez, and she does a study of A Course in Miracles and the science of mind. So she, goes through all the ways that they're all the same and have the same kind of. I mean, she quotes Ernest Holmes in the course,
I
and
was studying Ernest Holmes in the late 60s and early 70s.
yeah. So we have she's
How's that for
twice.
dating myself?
Yeah, I've dated myself too, and yeah, exactly. But yeah, she's doing that, looking at the Course of Miracles with that. There's all kinds of little study things that people are doing, And plus the beautiful thing of it is that because we have this technology that that gives us the ability to read the book and talk and show videos and play music and do all these different things, have like a whole program. An individual person can have a whole program that you don't even have to go into a studio to make it, and you can come on here, do your thing, and it goes right on to YouTube, so other people can come and look at it and hear what you have to say, listen to
Yep.
your music. See, it's the music is kind of tricky because YouTube is tricky about music.
Right,
But
right.
but as far as a lot of other, I mean, the reading the books and everything, I mean, we're studying a couple of uh, uh, Joel Goldsmith. On Fridays, we have a group that studies Joel Goldsmith, and we're all doing it all, and then it's right there on our YouTube channel.
Pretty cool.
And
Cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's it,
YouTube's pretty amazing, so you can kind of forget that people are watching, and then you say, oh, you get to these if people that contact you and say, I really enjoyed your YouTube videos. Oh, good, people are watching.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
It's really interesting to me. We don't get a lot of comments from people, but well, we have 714 videos on there right now. And I mean, that's pretty amazing when you think about it, because most of them are just people during the week doing a program, just like we're doing right now.
Mhm,
So,
mhm.
yeah, pretty darn cool. All right. So, enough about all our endeavors. It's just so cool.
It's
That
fun, isn't it? Yeah.
it really is. And I know you have the same, you get kind of the same elation because you have the ability, it's an ability to communicate to large numbers of people something that we're really passionate about and that is really helpful. And
Mhm.
also in letting the thing I was going to say about the doing it on our forum, ACIM Gather, is that anybody can do it. We don't have, oh, you haven't studied the course long enough, you haven't done the lessons, you don't know. We don't, you want to do a program, you're going to do a program, come on over. And that's, I think you're not going to find other spiritual groups so much who are going to be just telling everybody, come and take an hour a week and tell us what you think. So I think in that way we are unique, and not only that we it's not we don't just allow it, we encourage it, and
Uh-huh.
we're asking people all the time, just like Dove did to you. Do you want to have a program? Come and join, be a teacher,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's he. We recruit people all the time that way, and it's gives us such a greater depth of understanding
Mhm,
because
mhm.
we're hearing it from all our voices. So, all right. So, anyway, why don't you tell us what we're doing here, Bruce? Since I've been talking for 20 minutes.
Sh- Okay. Well, not quite that long. Um, we are reading since last summer, actually. We're coming up on a year and a couple of months, I think. Absence from Felicity, the story of Helen Schuckman and her scribing of A Course in Miracles by Kenneth Wapnick, PhD. Ken's wonderful biography of Helen. And in the print version that I have in front of me, we are about two-thirds of the way down the page on page 231 in the print edition, which is pretty close to halfway through the book now, almost. Shall I pick up where we
Yeah,
left off?
I guess if I put the right book in here, I've got
Oh, that's
that's
what that didn't look familiar. Okay, there we go.
here we go.
All right, that
Yeah,
looks like the
we'll
right
be
one.
reading Joel Goldsmith there. That okay, there we go.
Yep.
All right, so yeah, why don't you go ahead and pick up?
Okay, and I have where we were at was the following morning. Yeah, you got here in the right spot. Yeah, great. So where Ken's commentary continues, he says the following morning, after some additional dictation, and in parentheses, including several miracle principles, for the in parentheses, not included here, Helen awoke with fear, thinking of the biblical phrase, God is not mocked, anticipating punishment. Jesus explained that the quotation was, and then now here's Helen's writing, intended as reassurance. You were afraid that what you wrote last night was contradictory, conflicting with some earlier points, especially because you were writing while all doped up. And then in brackets, Helen took a strong sleeping pill each night. Remember, God is not mocked, in quotes, under any circumstances, which is, I'll add my words. It's impossible to mock pure non-duality because there's nothing to mock it. How's that for an
Yeah,
explanation?
exactly. I mean, yeah.
What could mock perfect oneness if there's nothing outside of perfect oneness to do the mocking? And why would there be any reason to mock anything if it's just one thing and it's
That's
perfect and
interesting
complete into itself?
because mock, think about the word mock. Maybe he's going to talk about that, but think about what the word, what happens when you mock something? You imitate it.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean, now the word is
That's true.
not even making sense to me anymore because I'm reading mocked and it just seems like such an odd word.
It is. It is.
But
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, it isn't. God is not denied. This is God is not imitated. There's nothing that can make God not God.
That I thank you for bringing that up because I wasn't thinking in terms of the imitation aspect of the word mock, but the imitation really is like, okay, I get the consolation prize by trying to make a substitute and having it fail miserably. And ego, of course, denies the failure. But that's the attempted mockery that every ego makes um, of perfect oneness because it's secretly uh, terrified, angry, and depressed that it thinks it pulled off this impossible crime of separation. And the Course just reminds us with Holy Spirit's messages that nothing happened. The atonement principle is that separation didn't happen. And so anything that seems to reflect that thought system is ultimately causeless and therefore fantasy or illusion or a dream.
Doesn't exist. Couldn't
Yeah, yeah.
possibly exist. Yeah.
Right. Which of course flies in the face of our everyday experience. That's why, the Course comes at it from so many different angles so that it slowly erodes the the ego propaganda that tries to convince us that we're evil, sinful, and wicked, which is the obvious outcome of believing that sin is an irreconcilable um, crime, but it's really an impossible crime. And if it's impossible, then there's nothing to get hung about, as the Beatles said.
That's it. And it's not even that we're a victim of that. It's like the ego is arrogant about it.
Right.
It's like, I can make God go away. I can make you be something that you aren't. And
Hmm.
it's very, very successful. The ego has been very successful at making us, at mocking us, making us believe that we're something we're not.
Hmm.
It's crazy. All right. All right. Continue
Well,
on.
okay. So I'm going to start that paragraph again. Contradictions in my italicized words mean lack of understanding or scribal failures, which I make every effort to correct, but they are still not crucial. The Bible has the same problem, I assure you, and it's still being edited. That's funny. Yeah, the revisionists are always hard at work.
Oh my God.
Consider the power of my word with the capital M, capital W, in that it has withstood all the attacks of error and is the source of truth. Tell Bill that there are certain advantages in being a psychologist. A major one is the understanding of projection and the extent of its results. Wow. I'm going to underline that sentence because that's so helpful. And I think the idea of projection really helps us understand how the entire material world, as we think of it, is really nothing more than a projection of the unconscious belief. that sin, guilt, and fear were possible, that the thought system of separation was possible. And in order to have a strategy to try to combat that horrible feeling that results from that thought system, we made up a scapegoat on a cosmic scale, and we call that the material universe or space time or bodies or everything from quarks to quasars, gluons to galaxies. Some
Yeah,
of my little catchphrases are, yeah.
exactly. And those are the dreams.
Yep.
And this is something I was listening to. I think it was Neville Goddard. I was listening to a lot of Neville Goddard last night. Anyway, and I think it was him who was saying this, that an exercise that you can do is to imagine that you're dreaming right now. And it's true because you are. But imagine
Uh-huh.
you're dreaming right now, and that this is a dream world, and these are dream figures, and this is a dream computer, and this is a dream. And I was practicing it, and yeah, you begin to see that it's a dream. And then I mean, it's really interesting. Anyway, so I love this. Yeah, a major one is the understanding of projection and the extent of its results, because that is the dream. We're dreaming.
Hmm. Hmm.
Wow.
And we owe that to Freud, who gave us projection and repression and uh,
Yeah. And that's why
a
King
bunch of
said,
different psychological terms that really help us understand how, as egos, we try to get rid of the unconscious guilt. Um, Reaction formation, just to name a few of the ideas and concepts that Freud really helped us understand that are woven through the course, even if they're not always using those exact words. The principles are very well described and pointed out in just different ways throughout the course to show us that we're doing these crazy things with our mind, and as Ken says, as egos, we're making up a maladaptive solution to a non-existent problem, and that's the world as we know it.
that's it. And I think, Ken has said that if it wasn't for Freud's work, that we probably wouldn't have a course in the form that we
Right.
have it.
Exactly. It would be very different material. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Helen, her love of Freud and Shakespeare and the language of the Bible and Plato and several other influences that were major influences in her life are very much reflected in the course. Yeah.
No, I love it.
Yeah. I mean, the ideas are obviously independent of all of those, great sages and philosophers, but certainly the course builds wonderfully upon all those core ideas.
Well, and that is also a very great indication or show pointer to us that it doesn't matter what it is that we study or believe. Doesn't matter. We had a discussion in my earlier group about astrology, because we had, before we started the group, we're kind of talking about what sign are you, whatever. And one of the persons said, well, I don't get why you're even talking about that, because that's not real. It's not really what so why pay attention to it or look at it. And it's a very good point. And I think the reason that it doesn't really matter is because it's as much a spiritual teaching as the Course in Miracles. There's really no difference if you really look at what it is that is going on in all those studies, whether it's astrology or Christianity or any of those itties or whatever. It's all about the how we interpret the dream and look for meaning in it.
With the key component being, which thought system are we using to look at anything with?
Exactly.
And there's just two thought systems. I mean, there's ego and Holy Spirit, and obviously countless different systems have been developed that attempt to use different analogies and metaphors, and I'm a huge metaphor fan, to try to explain and bring us back to mindfulness and bring us back to the place in our mind where we choose against the whole thought system of duality. And so I think what makes A Course in Miracles relatively unique is that it's a pure non-dual curriculum. And what makes it further unique is it's a system of spiritual psychotherapy that really um, highlights the idea that the guilt that we think is real can be undone by systematically looking at it with forgiveness. And that's what, it ascribes that to the part of our mind that it calls the Holy Spirit, that is able to consistently, persistently, gently, but patiently, keep looking at that until we've pulled all the dark, crazy thoughts out of our mind into the light and watch them one by one disappear. And at some point, the course not only promises, but it's a done deal that at some point we will have completely chosen to not um, invest anything further in the insanity of the dualistic thinking that the ego represents. I was also thinking when you mentioned astrology, the other day a couple of days ago I went to a talk on the Enneagram, which I don't know a whole lot about, but I have several friends that have studied it much more in depth. And it was a very nice talk. And I was smiling when the lady who gave it, a few blocks from here, um, to a group of a couple dozen people, and was talking about how, it's not the form itself, which has a sacred geometry, not a nonogram, sort of like symbol, and which I can, kind of connect with. Which is, again, it's almost like what purpose is this for? I mean, you can look at any ism or any metaphysical system, any teaching, and it all boils down to what is it for? And it was obvious that in her studies, she'd gotten into enough of the esoteric thought that revealed that if it's being used for reintegration of what's not intrinsically one, that's the higher purpose, and everything else really is magic. Those weren't the words she used, but it's a number of the things that she said conveyed that to me, and I thought, well, that's great. So,
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, the only reality of any of it is, if it leads to healing.
yeah, yeah. One of the examples of that is that comes to mind that's sort of humorous that I just think is a delight is um, years ago before the internet, when I worked in an office in Northern California in a corporate environment. There was a Xerox copy of all the sub laws of Murphy's Law that went around the office, and there was a couple dozen of them. Some of the more familiar ones might be, well, of course, Murphy's Law is if anything can go wrong, it will. And then one of the sub laws is Murphy was an optimist, and they're all very whimsical. Yeah, the odds of the uh, the the bread landing butter side down are directly proportional to the cost of the carpet, that kind of thing. Just silly stuff. But my favorite, and another really good one was inside of every little problem. Fits the ego to a T. Inside of every little problem is a much bigger problem struggling to get out. But my favorite of all, those are just ones I, somewhat committed to memory. But my favorite of all was called Garth's distinction, and I've Googled that, and I see every time I Google it, I only find my, references online to it. Maybe it was just something that was developed locally and passed around, but maybe there's some guy in in Northern California where I live that made this sheet up, and it's very good. But anyway, Garth's distinction went like this. It's like there are two types of people in the world: those who divide people into two types and those who don't. So I think that fits beautifully with our discussion of everything from NVC and astrology and the Enneagram and countless metaphysical systems and Joel Goldsmith, and just pick any teaching or teacher or spiritual metaphysical system you can shake a stick at, and they're at the core. If there's any truth to it at all, it reminds us that we're all one, and that the separation didn't happen, and that if it, anything that's valid will have to have some reminder of the pure non-duality of our real existence and the unreality of the dream. And everything else, yeah, nothing wrong with studying and practicing anything that works for you. But what I find is wonderful with the course is that it's such a pure, concentrated, distilled, non-dual teaching. And there's, hardly any chaff that I can find. And the chaff that usually consists of either my resistance or unwillingness to look carefully at what's being said, which usually flip sides of the same thing.
Yeah, it's all the same.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Do you want to read on from here? Or more
sure.
more
Okay.
comments about this metaphysical buffet line and New Age smorgasbord, or
Yeah, well, it's what got us here,
sure. Oh, sure.
and
Yeah.
that's again, all beliefs that lead to progress are helpful, and so that's
Yep.
and it is, it kind of is helpful in joining with other people, when I mean, it's just like, where do you come from, or what well, the kind of things that we get to know what a person is by, how they present, or where they lived, or what their accent is, or there's all kinds of ways that we try to suss out what the person is really all about. But the only reason for that, of course, the ego has a reason for it, but the Holy Spirit has a reason for it, because that it's getting to it's getting connected to our brothers,
Right.
and that's it. uh it's a connection thing. um so okay, so um continuing on. The statements here about the Bible should not be taken as literally true. I've already pointed out, and we'll return to this part in part 3, that the form of the course was directly influenced by Helen, and in parens, though certainly not its content, into parens, and that Helen knew the Bible well, believing certain statements in the Gospels were the words of Jesus. Therefore, the content of Jesus's message here came in consonance with this belief system. In our later discussion, I shall also point out the unreliability of Helen's hearing when it related to specifics. Yeah, many are called, few choose to listen. Okay, so after some more material on projection, Jesus cautioned all who attempt to be helpful, for example, to be miracle workers. And so this is, uh, let's see, we'll see. Is this in the book, in the course, or? Okay, I'll just read it because it looks like it's in the course. One of the major problems with miracle workers is that they are so sure that what they are doing is right because they know it stems from love, that they do not pause to let me establish my limits. Oh, okay, so there we go. That's what I was just saying. Oh, it's all good, but he's saying, well, you need to listen to what I have to say about it before you um, make your decision, because it stems from love, but you don't really know how it works. Later in the dictation, Jesus commented to Helen about a famous healer who also did not always ask when he should, quote, perform a particular miracle, unquote, and consequently caused himself, quote, unnecessary strain, unquote. This then led to the following comment. Anyone who is unable to leave the requests of others unanswered has not entirely transcended egocentricity. I never, quote, gave of myself, unquote, in this inappropriate way. Okay, so basically he's saying,
I'm thinking
any,
of in Oklahoma, the girl who can't say no.
yeah, yeah,
Now, obviously, that has a specific context, but the inability to say no, I think it's obviously a shortcoming that the course asks us to consider. Is like if we can't say no, to the ego in all of its forms, then we're basically saying that we can't say yes to the Holy Spirit. So that's the flip side of the same coin, right?
Yeah, yeah, I'm guessing so. So if you're unable to leave the requests of others unanswered, which I mean, that's the ego is always saying, I know, I can fix it, I can help you. So, we have to just be whatever seems to be happening, whether it's an actual request or it's an implied request of others, instead of saying, I know I can fix it, I will take care of it, I will do this, instead ask first, what should I do? And that's the miracle principle. Ask first before you perform a miracle. Because otherwise you know, you may be doing something completely the opposite of what is needed to be done.
And it's so tempting to think that what's needed to be done is behavioral or on the level of form, where from the course's perspective, what needs to be done is always and only about switching teachers,
Right.
switching from the ego thought system to the Holy Spirit's thought system, from condemnation and judgment and comparison and specialness and substitution. And what the course really calls sickness, which is nothing, it may impact the body, but it's really the sickness of the belief in separation. Switching from that whole crazy thing to the thought system of inclusion and forgiveness, and that then is the healing, and that's the miracle that we're asked to perform. And then what we do on the level of form is basically irrelevant at that point. Once we, love and do what you will, is this, as the saying goes, is if we can return our minds by removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, if we return our minds to that state of seeing the innocence in ourselves and each other without exception, then there's nothing that is happening in an illusory world that will make a difference one way or the other. We'll just naturally be guided to on the level of form, do what's appropriate and therefore kind and truly compassionate, because we're working with a thought system of compassion, whereas the ego's thought system has zero compassion because it's based on assumed guilt, even if it's mostly unconscious, right?
Exactly, exactly. And so I'm just checking my microphone. Am I sounding low to you? Or
No, no,
okay.
not
No,
low to
no,
me.
okay. All right. I just wondered because I don't know why I thought about it just now. Just probably ego trying to get me off the subject because I was thinking this is really true. So so yeah, the whole idea of why I'm doing it is the important thing. It isn't uh if I'm doing it because I'm guided to do it. And I think a lot of people get really confused about this guidance business. Well, I'm just going to back up because every time I think about this, then I realize the script is written and everything is already done. So the only thing that we're being guided to is to choose, how we're going to look at things. The movie's in the can, so all we're doing is choosing how to look at things.
Exactly.
So, when somebody comes to you with a request, you're going to do what you're going to do because that's what you did. But, how you see what happens and who you look at it with, that's the important thing. Not the actual doing, because there is no real doing. It's it's only watching. Oh, okay. All right. Okay, so Jesus thus requested that Helen ask him first, before seeking to help others. This request is now found in the first chapter of the text, the fourth paragraph in the section Atonement and Miracles. Again, we shall return in part 3 to this issue of being certain one is right about hearing the voice of Jesus or the Holy Spirit. So yeah, this is really what we need to do is to get to to know uh, whether we're hearing the voice of the ego or the voice of the Holy Spirit. And I guess, for me, to know, think, if I'm hearing the voice of the ego, then I'm thinking of what to do. I'm thinking of action. I'm thinking of how to do things or what to do, or where to go, or whatever. Um, and I do have many situations where I'm just told to do something and I'm not even thinking about it or wondering about it or thinking how to do something. I just get a notion, go do this. And I think those notions of go do this are just the prompt of the script. And it's what I'm going to go do anyway. But I'm not sitting there planning, how I'm going to go do it. Uh, very few things do I plan anymore. So what a gift that is. Okay, so all right. Let's see. Several encouraging asides to Bill followed. And then Jesus gave Helen the message, quote, in parent special revelation, unquote, quoted earlier. This was followed by, this revelation was permitted because you did not project onto Bill the blame for your omission to ask me if you should transcribe the notes. The fact that he should have done so does, the fact that he should have done so does not exempt you from your own omission. Thanks for blessing him with a miracle instead of cursing him with projection. And I don't even remember what this is talking about. Do you?
I was muted. Um,
Uh,
Not offhand, no. Although he did reference a moment ago to paragraph 4 in chapter 1, section 3, which I put in the chat. But I think that they might have moved on to a different.
yeah, this is a different thing.
Yeah,
Um, he's talking about a special revelation
right, right.
that was quoted earlier, and this was followed by, this revelation was permitted because you did not project onto Bill the blame for your omission to ask me if you should transcribe the notes. The fact that he should have done so does not exempt you from your own omission. So, anyway, well, maybe I'll go back and look at that later because
Yeah, yeah.
I'll get lost if I do that now.
There's, it's easy to get hung up in the minutia.
It is, it is. So I'll go back and listen to the last recordings and we'll find it.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, maybe you can bring it up next time when if you figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So thanks for blessing him with a miracle instead of cursing him with projection.
There you go. That says it right there, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah, it does right
yeah,
there.
yeah. And that's
Uh,
not that we can generalize to everyone at all times. Right?
exactly.
Yep.
So let's see. We find here the same openness to looking at the ego that Helen demonstrated in her letters to Bill. Some notes regarding Louis followed, and they're omitted here. And then Jesus, blessed are you with Mary as the mother of the children. Helen, I ask for forgiveness for having thrown away all the money, a reference to the omitted notes on Lewis. But Jesus said, it's all right. You lived in scarcity then, but now you are forgiven. So you live in abundance. There is no longer any need to throw anything away or to want for anything either. Let's see. Would you like to continue reading?
Sure, sure.
Mute yourself.
Yeah. What followed next is unclear from Helen's notes, but there appeared to have been some experience of Jesus as an infant, which led to Helen stating, Helen, behold the handmaid of the Lord, be it done unto me according to thy will. Jesus, egocentric is right. I do not need another physical mother. I'm sure I read this before, but I don't remember this sentence when I read this a decade or so ago. I do not need another physical mother. And she, in brackets, Mary, was the only one that conceived without any lack of love. Okay, and then Ken continues. In part 3, I shall discuss the connection between Helen and Mary, the biblical mother of Jesus. The dictation then continues with Jesus's words of encouragement to Helen and Bill. I'm going to pause there just for a moment to say, just think of all the specialness that we've ascribed not only to the historical figure of Jesus, but also to Mary and the virgin birth and yada yada goes on and on. And if the course says there is no world, this is the central thought the course attempts to teach, then making specific personages special, no matter how quote unquote holy they may have been within a dream, if it's still a dream, the only thing that's really important is what they might have shared that will help us all get out of the dream and wake up from it. And it's just interesting, and I sometimes even amusing, downright amusing to see how special we've made things. I've just started watching a series encouraged by other people in the School for Course in Miracles class I attend regularly and really enjoy and often facilitate, and including this evening. Anyway, a lot of my colleagues in that curriculum have said, "Oh, you got to check out The Chosen," which is a series on, I think it's both Amazon and Netflix are airing it. So I've watched 3 episodes so far. It is pretty interesting. My gist of it so far, which is really out of, I guess there's 4 seasons, but 3 of them are out there now. Apparently, I've only watched the 3 episodes of the first season, but what I've gleaned so far is that the attempt is to convey a not so serious Jesus and one that respects the the innocence rather than the guilt. Maybe not in those words, but I'm getting the impression that this could be a pretty interesting series, and based on what some of my other friends have been watching is saying, I'm going to keep watching it, but you might want to check it out if you haven't already. Anyway, meanwhile, I'll pick up where I left off. Okay. The dictation then continues with Jesus's words of encouragement to Helen and Bill. Then he asks Helen not to be ashamed of him, another important theme to which we shall return later when I discuss Helen's relationship with Jesus. And so, yeah, anytime you have somebody that is singled out as being special, which certainly formal religions do with all of their deities, and Jesus within formal Christianity is no exception, and certainly a rather prominent example. We just have to kind of look at the way that we take any figure or personage within duality and want to make them special, either through special love or special hate. Demonize. A demon is just a deity with an opposite polarity, but the polarization is the the issue. Is like, as long as I'm comparing and making different, I'm violating or attempting to violate the principle of love makes no comparisons that the course puts out, right? So anyway, this is now Helen's words, quoting Jesus. Okay. Tell Bill that as soon as both of you have completely entered the second phase, you will be not only willing to enter into communion, but will also understand peace and joy. Your commitment is not yet total. That is why you will have more to learn than to teach. When your equilibrium stabilizes, you can teach as much as you learn. This will give you the proper sense of balance. And of course, the Manual for Teachers tells us that we're all teaching and learning all the time. And the only important thing is, which thought system are we teaching and learning? So,
Yeah, absolutely. And
did you want to pick up from there?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah. This is just really interesting, this little conversation between Helen and I have that. I did buy somebody, well, I know who published it. It's Helen's Notes. I think I haven't even really looked at it because I don't read treeware anymore very much because of my eyes. But I'm always wondering, what the heck did he say? This only brings up more curiosity, right? And you do want to know all about all these special little things, but all that really is just more speculation on the dream. So, but I would really like to know all these, what he's talking about. So, okay. Meanwhile, remember that no effort is wasted. Unless you remember this, you cannot avail yourself of my efforts, which are limitless. Have a good day. Since only eternity is real, why not use the illusion of time constructively? And then realize Jesus was the one who invented that. Have a good day. Since eternity is real, why not use the illusion of time constructively? You might remember that underneath are the everlasting arms. Note the biblical quotation, quote, if you are ashamed of me, I will be ashamed of you, unquote, is interpreted as a threat only as long as you remain in the first step. For example, one does not recognize that there is nothing that one would want to hide, even if it were possible to do so. And I think that is in the course. I mean, that's something of that very same nature. There's nothing I would hide, even if I could. What it, quote, in brackets, the quotation from Ken, really means is that if you are ashamed of me or embarrassed by love, you will project and make it impossible for me to reach you. Then he says, make every effort you can not to do this. I'll help you as much as you will let me. And there again is that the whole dynamic between us and Jesus. He will do everything for us if we let him. You know, that how many times does he say, if you let me? Um,
Yeah.
and then how many times do we say, let me, remember, let me this, and who are we asking? We're asking the ego, let me. Jesus saying, let me, please.
Hmm. I think that's a really important topic, because if we're embarrassed about uh, Jesus, it's not the biblical Jesus. It's really the innocence in our mind that the ego can't relate to. And that's what we want. Every ego wants to hide from that, because that basically means it's undoing. It's if I can accept an identity that's all inclusive, that has no needs, that has an acceptance of all of creation, and a recognition that there's nothing else that I want, then that basically says to ego, um, I'm not buying your propaganda. And that's when it goes from suspiciousness to viciousness. So, not to not be blindsided by that, we have to kind of notice that, that's an ego strategy to keep us embarrassed by love, or embarrassed and ashamed of Jesus, not the biblical Jesus, but the part of our mind that represents the undoing of fear and guilt and sin, because by recognizing that they are uh, untrue, they're illegitimate fabrications, and miscreative use of mind, or uncreative use of mind, because we have the capacity to have a dream of duality, but it's not an evil, sinful, wicked dream. It's just a silly dream, and I think we have to see the silliness of it with Holy Spirit's help in order to begin to recognize that we can apply that to everything, and apply it indiscriminately, right?
Yes, yeah.
But
Because
the
it
only
is silly.
it says the quote I put in the chat, I'm the only one who can perform miracles indiscriminately because I am the atonement. Well, we discriminate. We say, well, I'll share um, what I really am with certain people and in certain situations, but I'll hold back in others. The course isn't asking us to do that, but it does suggest that if we see the Christ, if you will, in everyone, um, we will automatically be led to say whatever is most appropriate, and share whatever's truly helpful in any given moment. And I think that's where the prayer for salvation of, I'm here only to be truly helpful. If I can remember that, I'm going to be inspired to do or say or whatever on the level of form, merely as a reflection of the real miracle, which is the change of mind, where I see that we're not separate. And that's where the peace comes flooding back into our mind that we thought we'd forsaken.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And the whole idea uh is that when we give up our need to control and to plan and to ensure things are going to be a certain way, and all the things that the ego does to try to plan for its own health and safety, when we stop engaging in that, then we are, as you were mentioning, we're content to be wherever he wishes because he sent us here. And we're only here to represent him who sent us. And so, that it takes the personal self out of it and the personal opinion out of it. And, it's almost like, if you work for, I don't know, the if you're in the government, let's say, well, I'm trying to think of an example that hasn't been broken up by many people so far. You work for the police department or whatever, and you're there representing them. You are not going to be, even if your own personal opinion is, these people are scum and they deserve to be treated badly and punished because you represent the city or the state or the whatever. You are not allowed to have personal opinions in it. The opinion that you're only allowed to have or should only have is the opinion of the who you represent. And so that shifts things because you have to think differently, you have to speak differently. And, even if you hate, these people because of their race or their religion or, how they look or what they do, you can't have a personal opinion if you're representing him who sent you.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that makes any sense, but I mean,
Well, we can have personal opinions, but I think the course spells it out really nicely and clearly is, there's nothing wrong with having crazy thoughts, but paraphrasing, but just ask of yourself, are there any that you would keep? Because I think the process of our healing our minds is to really pull out all the crazy stuff that's in our mind's closet, metaphorically, out onto the street for the big recycle truck to come and say, do I really need any of this? And at some point we realize, no, I think I've gotten rid of all the garbage that I can recycle all this and turn it into something useful, by letting go of the dysfunctional stuff that doesn't serve me. And if everything that is based on separation is junk, it's just trash.
right. And it's stuff I think it belongs to me and so it's important no matter if it is trash. Oh my gosh. Okay. So let's see. I'll continue reading. Okay, some notes followed regarding a friend of Bill's, and then the miracle points continued with what became Principle 24 and an additional correction. Miracles make time and tide wait for all men. They can heal the sick and raise the dead because man himself made death and taxes and can abolish both. Note, tax also means strain. Look up miracles. These are notes Jesus has given Helen. Look up miracles. I think the third definition is best. That which or one who is of surpassing excellence or merit. That's right. Excuse me. Sorry. You are a miracle. God creates only, quote, that which or one who is of surpassing excellence or merit, unquote. Man is capable of this kind of creation too, being in the image and likeness of his own creator. Anything else is only his own nightmare and does not exist. Only the creations of light are real. By the way, about the flat feet, these are little conversations Jesus is telling Helen. By the way, about the flat feet, this is a slang term for policemen or the guardians of law and order. This was used first before the quote, it has no arches, unquote bit. Correct to read, miracles rest on the law and order of eternity. This is funny because I was just talking about the police.
Mhm.
And then in brackets, Ken says, this was even further corrected later to read, as quoted earlier, Miracles, therefore, reflect the laws of eternity, not of time. Part of Principle 19, end of brackets. Let's see. Okay. As long as you take accurate notes, every word is meaningful. But I can't always get through. Whenever possible, I will correct retroactively. Be sure to note all later corrections. This means that you are more receptive than you were when I tried before. And I'm going to mute my mic and cough so you can talk.
Okay, that might be a good place to stop for today, but um, it's some interesting things we covered today. I think one of them that really stood out for me is just the fact that um, the guilt or shame or embarrassment that we have about the identity that we made up is really projected onto the figure in our minds of Jesus, or any other spiritual teaching or teacher that reflects a purity that is beyond the world. And if we can just notice that shame, guilt, embarrassment, which is really just a form of fear, is part of our forgiveness classroom. And that's why I think there's so much in Ken Wapnick's material and throughout the course really that suggests we need to forgive Jesus, because not that he did anything, but what we've projected onto him from our egos, because the ego says that's the way home. And uh, the lack of forgiveness of the part of our mind that really has never condemned is really crucial to our returning back to where we never left. So anyway, and on that note, I will wish everyone a very wonderful and peaceful week, and love to all. And you can always find me on acimblog.com, and have a wonderful week all. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Bruce. Do I sound different now, by the way?
You still sound like Lynn.
Okay. Oh, good. Because I realized what had confused me. I have a camera that has a microphone, and I usually use my desktop microphone, and the light was on my camera, and I was like, why is that light on my camera? It was because it was the camera mic. So they both work just as well, I guess. So
Okay, Doug.
that's good. That's good. All right. Well, thank you so much, Bruce Rawls.
Likewise. Have a great week.
All right, you too, my love, and
Bye for now.
try to enjoy the spring in